Hi everyone, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and today I'm answering your homeschool questions. This question is, how do you prepare for future burnouts and how much margin do you dictate for days off? It's a really great question. I love that you're thinking about avoiding burnout because that's a real issue when you're taking on such a huge task as homeschooling. Honestly, it's a huge task just to be a parent, but when you don't even have those breaks when the kids are off in school, you might worry, and legitimately so, worry about burnout. So how do we prepare ourselves so that we are not hitting those blocks of time or an entire season, or in some cases years, where you're trying to recover from being burnt out? So there's a lot that you can do to avoid actually getting all the way to the bottom where, for me, burnout, like severe burnout, means that like nothing is functioning, you're taking a lot of time off. It might even mean completely changing your schedule for a time being, maybe a season or a year, while you recover from burnout. So that very serious burnout can be for a number of reasons that may be outside of your control. There could be really extenuating circumstances that cause that. But let's take that we are doing the typical day-to-day, which is challenging as it is, and we're trying to avoid burnout. So for me, I've noticed that the months in the past, I've noticed that the months that were the most challenging for me were January and February. I experienced the most burnout at this point. This is where the excitement of the new school year really waned, and I was settling in for both the winter months, which have their own challenges, although we're in Southern California, so they really don't have the same challenges that maybe other people have. The weather is great almost year round, but still there's just this mood that you have in the winter time. It's also after holiday season where you might have had a lot of time off with your children. Maybe you went on vacation. Also, you're looking at the middle of the year and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I still have several months to go, and you're kind of needing a bigger break than just what was afforded for you during winter break. So thinking about the trajectory of your school year is important so that you have enough energy to make it through the year. Because for me, I love starting in September. It's very exciting. I've got a lot of motivation, really big plans for the school year. And by January, I'm having to revisit a lot of those plans, realizing that maybe we're not going to hit our goals. Maybe I'm just burnt out because I planned too much and I didn't schedule enough recovery time. Now, recovery time and downtime is quite personal, but it is necessary. And for many years, I really didn't understand that about myself, about the needs of my children, the interaction, just family life. All of that took a really big toll on me, especially me as an introvert, was really challenging, and it took me many years to recognize what was going on. So these days, while I can anticipate and prepare for those low periods in the school year, they don't quite hit as hard unless there is something extra going on. A couple years ago, my sister passed away from cancer. That was a really challenging time for me, and our homeschool really took a severe dip for about a year and a half before things started to recover and I started to feel better and was able to engage in a productive way. So I totally understand when there are extenuating circumstances that really cause you to just get derailed for a moment. Okay, but let's talk about those day-to-day things. What I find really important now is recognizing energy levels. So I've kind of deconstructed my whole day and my whole life and my whole interaction with my children and the way that I homeschool by looking at it from an energy perspective. And I know now that my energy level is quite fixed every morning. Whereas some people start out the morning where they are filling their bucket with energy and they can do things to gain more energy. I wake up with a fixed amount of energy, and every interaction is going to drain my battery just a little bit more. So for me, I need to recognize that preparation is important, efficiency is important, limiting things that are draining for me, and first of all, recognizing them in the first place so that I can maintain the energy level that I need in order to get through the day, the week, the month, the season, and ultimately the year. Now, if you are in the same position that I'm in and you don't actually know what's going on, because I didn't know for a long time, then I would suggest this. Sometimes you need to collect a little bit of data and observe a little bit of what's going on before you can make the changes that are necessary for you. So for me, I recognize that January and December were times where I sort of dipped in my energy. I felt a little bit burnt out. And so what I would do, two things. One is that we do a Waldorf main lesson block approach, which means we're constantly changing our main lessons throughout the year, which means that every 3 weeks to 6 weeks to 8 weeks approximately, we're doing a brand new main lesson block. And this is a concentration in one particular subject area. And that's like starting the year off all over again in this little mini block of time, which means that I would look for books or activities for each of these units, and it gave all of us that little bit of extra motivation that you would normally have at the beginning of the year. We got little doses of it throughout the year. Okay, here's something else that's probably from my organization brain, but sometimes reorganizing a space, and I don't mean like completely changing the schoolroom like we just did a year ago, but I mean just maybe going through a bookshelf, or maybe purchasing a couple of new art supplies, or going to the library and just browsing the books. That sometimes is the little bit of energy that makes you excited. Now, this only works if you haven't hit burnout. If you've hit burnout, for me, that means that you need time to recover. I want to give you the opportunity to recognize those areas in your life where you're already feeling the dip, so that you either know I need a little more motivation, or I need a little bit more recovery, or I need to manage the energy in my life a little bit better. And honestly, it took me so many years to recognize this. I hope that this information helps you recognize it sooner, so that you're not hitting those burnout moments in your life, especially in homeschooling, as often as I did. Okay, so what about actually taking time off from school? So I personally avoid taking all the single day holidays in a school year. So if there's a national holiday on a Monday, for instance, or a Friday, I don't take those at all. I like to have a full 5-day school week. I don't like doing a partial week. So I will omit all of those holidays entirely. Instead, I will use, I'll kind of group them together so that if we're doing some, we need some more time off for religious holidays, for instance, or travel or field trips, then I have enough. I don't feel like I haven't done enough for my children from an educational perspective, because we've avoided taking all of those single holidays off. Also, going on a field trip, even going on a road trip, that's very educational. So you could certainly say, well, I'm still going to take the time off and do those things because I find them educational. That's completely a valid way to look at it. I just like to, for me, have 5-day school schedule. It just works a little bit better in my brain and how we organize in our homeschool. Okay, the last thing is friends. It's really important to have a solid support network for you, whether it's just for parenting or it's for homeschooling. And of course, there's a lot of overlap with them, but having your friendship group, especially ones who can relate to what you're going through specifically in homeschooling, because I'll just tell you, when my friends would talk, if my friends' children were in public school and they would be lamenting about something, I would always be like, well, the solution is homeschooling. And that's not fair, because that's not always the solution. Homeschooling has its own set of problems. But if you are lamenting to your friends and they're all sending their children to public school and you're lamenting about something in homeschooling, they might just offer, well, why don't you just send them to school? But the truth of the matter is, there are issues with homeschooling. There are issues with public school. You're going to run into problems either way, and having a support network of friends and family and other homeschoolers who can help you navigate those specific challenges is going to be so important in your longevity as a homeschooler and in your mental well-being. So if I prefer in person, but if you can't find a group in person, certainly online would help. And if you really want to do an in-person support group and there isn't one in your area, then it might just mean that it's your calling to start one on your own. Thank you so much.